Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to First Universalist Church of Yarmouth. My name is Ann Turner, and I'm a member of the Worship Council. I'm so happy to be greeting all of you this morning for our virtual worship service. We are nothing if not flexible. This is Reverend Hillary's scheduled Sunday off, and I would like to introduce our guest minister, Reverend Sarah Gillespie. With deep caution and respect for our entire congregation, we made the decision to meet virtually as Reverend Sarah is not feeling fully healthy. She is an ordained Unitarian Universalist minister and a board-certified healthcare chaplain. She works in hospice and tends to the emotional and spiritual needs of patients and families facing end-of-life questions and concerns. Immersed in grief for her professional work, she balances some of that by baking, singing, and watching baseball with her partner and their young son. At First Universalist, our mission is to explore our faith, embrace this community, and to engage the world as spiritual seekers. May we take these words to heart. Before our service begins, I have one brief announcement, a reminder that January has been our month of radical love, which will continue into February. And the congregation has been provided with suggestions for many acts of love, which can be done within our families, with friends, and in our community. We encourage you to choose those which call to you and to share your experiences with others. Following the service, all are invited to remain on Zoom for our virtual coffee hour for a time of fellowship. And now I invite you to take a deep breath as we settle into this time together. Our music director, Sam Chandler, will lead us into worship.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for allowing me to be here via a screen rather than in person so I don't cough on you. This is one of the perks of parenthood, as I'm sure you all know, inheriting germs. Hear these words this morning, adapted from the Reverend Sharon Wiley. You whose hearts are broken, come in. You whom pain has touched and sorrow and shock. You who have cried this week and read the news with sadness. You who are angry, afraid, and grieving, come in, come in. You with hearts open to love and hope, come in. You who have laughed this week and felt gratitude for life's many blessings. You to whom gifts are given in abundance, you who rejoice, come in, come in. All our hearts are broken and open. All of us here both grieve and rejoice. This is our place and this is our hour to gather and sing and cry and laugh. Come in and be welcomed. Let us worship together. Now I invite you to join me in our unison affirmation. You're free to read it in the chat. Thank you, Joanna, as I read it aloud. We are united in seeking to increase love with justice and to constitute a free church open to all people. Mindful of our past and drawing upon modern knowledge, we respond to the spiritual needs of persons and are devoted to the common good in community, nation, and world. We cherish the integrity of each individual and search for truth with reason as our guide. We respect differences of opinion and strive to be a democratic community. We are concerned with this world and open to the future. And if you have a chalice at home this morning, I invite you to light it, or you can simply light one in spirit. We light our chalice in peace and friendship.
Good morning. Today, we're going to share with you for our Time for Wonder a children's story called Love Is. Love Is by Diane Adams, illustrated by Claire. Love is holding something fragile, tiny wings and downy head. Love is noisy midnight feedings, shoebox right beside the bed. It's peaceful sleeping, no more peeping, tucked in tightly, head to toes. Love is waking up together, side by side, and beak to nose. It's early mornings, messy bath times, tidying up and settling down. Love is in familiar voices, feeling lost and being found. It's in the struggles, growing muscles, ready for a bigger pond. It's sensing when the time is right to lift those wings to travel on. Love is nudging, gently tugging, coaxing baby from the nest. It's getting to the edge and hoping, letting nature do the rest. Love is missing, reminiscing, wishing things could stay the same. It's understanding even ducklings, like the seasons, have to change. And love is also watching, waving, wondering if love remembers you, and knowing in a happy instant that love has lasted and grown some too. And now let's say our children's blessing together. We are Unitarian Universalist, people of open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands.
We've come to the time in our service where we share our joys and concerns with each other. And I invite any of you to either write a concern in the chat, which I'll try to see, or show your face, turn on your video and raise your hand, and I will light candles to share our joys and concerns with.
Thank you, Anne. Please join me in a moment of prayer and reflection. Wherever you find yourself this morning, try to put your feet on the ground. Try to center yourself amidst whatever is going on, wherever you are. Take a deep breath with those who are around you. And just be here in this moment. Holy One of many names, God of love, Spirit of life, we come with both light and heavy things on our hearts this morning. We lament for the family of Tyree Nichols in Memphis. We lament for the systemized violence that exists in our country, for the families affected by the shooting in Monterey Park amidst a celebration of Lunar New Year. We lament for those who are without someone they love, who have suffered a loss. And we lament with those who have done wrong and are still searching for how to make things right. We also lift up light moments in our lives, the love of family, the blessing of successful surgeries, the small miracles of a glint in the snow, the ordinary joy of a warm cup of tea. For all the ways in which we gather and hold one another up, we give thanks. And no matter how we feel this morning, no matter where we find ourselves in body and heart and mind, may we know that we are not alone in what we are feeling, and that there are others to help us carry things. And may we continue to feel held in the arms of love and community. May it be so. Amen.
It's now time for our offering. And honoring our commitment to the care of the earth, our half plate this morning will be shared with Maine Climate Action Now, drawing together climate action and youth organizations and affected communities from across Maine. MCAN offers education and action opportunities, seeking to amplify the voices of youth and others historically excluded from the climate conversation, holding social, racial, and economic justice as critical to the transition to zero carbon emissions, MCAN demands the equitable implementation of clean renewable energy, ecological land use practices, and bold community-led action for a more resilient Maine. Please give generously to support the work of this important collaboration. Please offer your gift by clicking on the link in your order of worship to contribute via Give Butter, or by dropping a check or cash in the mail, or by sending via your bank's bill pay feature. Your offering will be gratefully received.
Say my name in less than words. Tell me that you see the talking birds. Name me a few. Now the paths are paved with hay. Streams of light are flowing across the dew. And you say, morning jay and dove, perched up above, sit in the shade and stay until the morning jay sings.
I could just listen to that music for a while and not preach, and we would have a good worship. But I guess I'll share some words I wrote anyway. First, our reading this morning, it is part of Paul's letters to the Corinthians, and it is from 1 Corinthians chapter 13. If I speak in the tongues of humans and angels but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away all my possessions and if I hand over my body so that I may boast but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable. It keeps no record of wrongs. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. But as for prophecies, they will come to an end. As for tongues, they will cease. And as for knowledge, it will come to an end. For we know only in part, and we prophesy only in part. But when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end. When I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror, but then we will see face to face. Now I know only in part, then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. And now faith, hope, and love remain, these three, and the greatest of these is love. Here ends our reading. On a typical day, I hear the ding of text messages, the hum of an oxygen concentrator, the creak of a hospital bed mechanically bending, the rattle of pills in a 7-day organizer, and the sigh of an exhausted caregiver. I work in hospice, and believe it or not, these are the sounds of love. I bet you have hearts in your eyes already. Are you immediately thinking about love when I say hospice? Maybe not, but love is what I witness on a daily basis, serving patients and families confronting life-limiting and terminal illnesses. And I'm here this morning to remind all of us how big love can show up in such small moments and unexpected places. This is not a Hallmark movie, and there are no candy hearts awaiting you at the end of this sermon. But I think our image of love is bigger than all the things that traditional Valentines have to offer. I walked into a room once, and there love was. She has many disguises. In this instance, love was in her 60s, fighting terrible COPD and decades of mental illness. She was quick-witted and impulsive. We've all known impulsive loves, right? She is kind and welcoming. This love just wanted to be seen and heard and cared for, known by those around her. When I worked in a hospital, love was a young woman with a rare disease and a strong faith very different from my own. She was bright and everyone enjoyed being around her. Love made difficult decisions about not receiving certain treatments. Love had no fear of dying, despite being a young mother. Love accepted what was, and in this instance, lived and went home with a lot of medical help. In another instance, I found love in a nursing home. Love is always hiding in these strange places. This love has been around for almost a century and may be around for another one, the way she carries on. She taught me new card games and new ways of looking at how to measure what matters in life. And every time I see her, she always reminds me that I'm important to her, even if she can no longer remember my name. But love is not always sweet on the surface. I have found tiny love in labor and delivery born too soon. I have found wounded love in the emergency room with a brain injury. Love is also in oncology, receiving radiation. And of course, love is undergoing treatment for depression. Time and again, from patients, families, and yes, even from a wonderful UUs like you, I get asked the following questions. Isn't your job depressing? Or isn't doing that hard? Or why would you want to do that? And to say that this work and my calling to it is misunderstood would be quite an understatement. And my answer doesn't often fit into a neat 30-second elevator speech. But sometimes in my answer, I tell people about love and all the other words that are used to describe it. Yes, love has as many names as faces. I tell people how moved I am to be in love's presence, whether in a hospital room or a hallway, a visit or a meeting, during lunch or even after hours in the parking lot. I'm pretty sure that love works overtime. I do this work and am called to this work because of the love I witness on a regular basis in our world of healthcare and specifically hospice. Now, at this point, some of you might be thinking I'm painting a pretty nice picture of hospice, and let me be clear, I don't want to romanticize or silver line serious illness. It's not something any of us wish for, and many of us who have been with loved ones at the end of life or during chronic disease can attest to this. For some of us, it might even be a worry for ourselves this morning and what our future looks like. Hospice can be a place of heartbreak, despair, sadness, grief, pain, suffering. It's also a place of chaos, full of information, unanswered questions, and letting go of plans for a future that was once dreamed of. but those are the things that are easy to see. Those are the things that we expect to see, because those are the things we more easily find outside the healthcare world in our day-to-day lives as well. Watching TV or checking our news feed, we can easily become inundated and overwhelmed by the bad news. Police violence, climate change, homelessness, systemic racism, the opioid crisis, not to mention the price of gas and groceries. I actually thought about accepting my honorarium today in the form of eggs, but I decided against it. Or it could be the magical blue light of our cell phones calling us to compare ourselves to strangers on the internet, to pay attention to a new diet or royals and their babies, or that friend who posts too much on Facebook. It could be our meteorologist telling us of a frightening future forecast. It might be our laptops asking us to read and answer emails with haste. Yes, it could even be our favorite friend, Google, prompting us to grasp at knowledge with more and more frequency. According to one of my favorite movies, Jerry Maguire, we live in a cynical world and work in a business of tough competitors. And that was before the internet. This can feel true for us whether we work in a hospital, at a school, our own business, a restaurant, or elsewhere. Wherever and however we get pulled from the present moment, we miss witnessing love. We easily forget its power and greatness in our ordinary lives. And lucky for us, we are not the first people to have struggled with this conflict of how to be present to love in the midst of great turmoil. The people of Corinth, ancient Greece, whom Paul, a very complicated and complex Christian convert, struggled with this as much as we did. He even wrote a strongly worded letter about love. And our reading today reflects that struggle. These words, which many of us hear at weddings, are not just words for those getting married. These are words for us all. They are not just words for the wedding altar. They are words for all the altars that we encounter in the world. And so I want us to engage with them in this new light. Paul was trying to tell the people of Corinth that love, with a capital L, is greater than the things which pull us from the present moment. Greater than tongues, greater than prophecies, greater than knowledge, greater than faith. If I speak in the tongues of mortals and angels, he writes, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. Now, this isn't language that we use all the time. So let's start with the word tongues. It can throw me off a bit. We're not talking about people actually speaking in tongues. In this passage, it just means speech. Apparently, the Corinthians were quite chatty, and so maybe we have that in common. And their tendency to talk too much actually got in the way of them building their community. In looking at this passage with modern eyes, I can think of times and instances in my personal life and my ministry where I focused on trying to explain something, or trying to say exactly the right words, or preach the right sermon. And have you ever been stuck just trying to get the best words, but you end up missing some of the best moments? Nothing is a substitute for real presence. And I think this passage holds wisdom for us today in discovering that sometimes we have to be quiet with our mouths and our minds in order to really be present and let love in. What love have we missed when we've been too busy to stop and notice it? Now on to prophetic powers. This one certainly doesn't sound like it's for our time, but really a prophecy is just a prediction or a forecast of some kind, like all the snow we got last week. Prophecy in our day and age just means planning and thinking ahead. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm terribly guilty of putting planning on a pedestal. I'm the type of person who would gladly organize my whole life in very pretty file folders and nicely colored paper clips if I could. Plans are necessary, of course, but the warning from Corinth is when we begin to put future plans over our current love, we lose the ability to be in this moment, however difficult it is. And everyday love is almost impossible to notice and recognize when we are not there. On to knowledge, something many of us here, and certainly many in the world of healthcare, hold quite dear. Sure, love is the shared theology that we build upon in our UU faith, but our tradition also promises to seek knowledge freely, to uphold reason, and this is something that's always been important in our movement. I was reminded again when I heard it in your unison affirmation. There was a time in our history, meaning the larger history of the Christian tradition from whence we came, where knowledge was only for a select few. Knowledge was mediated in church, it was not for everyone, and in response, many of our forebears sought out knowledge. We held tight to knowledge, and maybe today we still try to know our way around things that cannot be grasped by knowledge, like love. This passage says we can know in part, but that knowledge will come to an end. Love, however, never ends. This seems like the most straightforward part of Paul's message. Knowledge is fleeting, while love is everlasting. This can make any of us feel a little uncomfortable, because just like planning things, knowing things can make us feel good. It can give us a little certainty and control, something to hold on to, something to rest on when everything else is just chaos. But as a chaplain, knowing more has never helped me be more present to love. I've sometimes gotten caught myself and thought, maybe if I knew more about this patient's background or faith or what their diagnosis really meant, I might be better able to sit with them. And those thoughts go through my head, but in practice, I enter someone's room or home, usually knowing very little. And that is often when love invites me in. And that's when in my better moments, I'm able to open my heart to witness this love and all its attributes. Lastly, Paul writes about faith, another warning for Corinth and for us. But surely this was a mistake by Paul. I mean, wasn't he trying to teach people how to do church? And so it seems a little far-fetched that he could do that without talking about faith. But as part of your church's words tell us, you seek to increase love with justice. You ground yourselves each week and affirm that you're here to create more love, and not just for those you know and care for already, but to those with whom you might disagree. Love is your center as you explore, embrace, and engage. And this is a bold calling. And holding love as our center calls us back to our Universalist heritage. The largeness of the love that we carry has to be greater than any one people, one culture, political group, or faith. Those groups have the habit of putting us in silos, especially our faith. And the early Universalists noticed that, and they argued for a radically inclusive God of love and the idea of universal salvation, that all people, no matter what happened to them on earth, would be reconciled to God, to that love, and that no one would suffer forever. Our ancestors said that love is greater than faith and belief, and that everyone will share in the destiny of love. Maybe Paul was even a secret Universalist. I don't know. So the good news is plentiful this morning. Love is already in our history and in your congregational DNA. Love is greater than talking, planning, knowing, or even believing. The good news is that love is present in our midst if we are able to show up and witness it, not on a wedding day, but just in the everyday. We know what it looks like no matter what costume it is wearing, a hospital gown, a white coat, scrubs, sweats, or a suit. Love asks us again and again to simply be present in our here and now experiences so we can recognize love in ourselves, in one another, and in the world around us, even and especially when we find the world to be a frightening place. It is times like these that call us to remember. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. May that love center us and guide us today and every day. May it be so. Amen.
peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us. Peace has tried us. If inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Please join me in our unison benediction. For those who come here seeking God, may God go with you. For those who come embracing life, may life return your affection. For those who come to seek a path, may a way be found and the courage to take it, step by step.
And just a reminder before Sam plays the postlude to stick around if you're able and join us for fellowship in the same Zoom room.